Hi! This time I wanted to talk about romance and other awkward things in tabletop role-playing games. This video was inspired by a comment made by Shadow from the Shadow and Son channel. I'm going to put the link to their channel because it's the father and the son in the description below. He was talking about this campaign. I think Rick was game mastering this sci-fi campaign, and so far it's only been guys. But even if there are guys, there haven't been any opportunities for romance. In a Sword and Planet sort of style, you usually have romance with even alien species. And depending on how you want to handle things, some situations could become a bit weird. In one of the short stories from Clark Ashton Smith, there is actually this romance between a human and the weirdest alien imaginable. Imagine this being with many appendages and like a triangle shaped head and had like, I don't remember if it had like 7 eyes or something like that. It was a very strange being, and it was like a female alien. And there was actually this romance between both characters. Of course, it was not a romance in order to produce offspring. The compatibility would be zero, of course, but it's like they were so many galaxies apart and they finally met. And yes, how unlikely is that? But they actually love each other. So very weird, right? So you can explore those avenues, but sadly, because of many things, especially when it comes to political agendas being pushed in tabletop RPGs, romance has been distorted in some cases, especially concerning sex as well and gender. Like some really disgusting modules out there, like, oof, I don't even know. I don't even want to mention this, but just to warn people against it. For Numenera, there is Love and Sex in the Ninth World by Shanna Germain, I would say. Love and Sex, and you have this. Oh, it is normal for there to be cities where, let's say, adults rest with very young people, if you know what I mean. It's obvious now. You see why there is an eye in the Montecook Games logo, especially when you compare it to the symbology, the symbols, the Freemason symbols in the invisible sun. Those of you that study religions and cults and secret societies know why they are pushing that agenda. So very sad that they distort things like that. But that doesn't mean that you need to be contaminated by those degenerate politics. When it comes to your tabletop role-playing games, love, romance, sex, they can be powerful tools to add extra spice and intrigue in any situation. I mentioned in that live stream, I'm going to put the link in the description, when I was talking to Shadow, that I had players, male players playing as female characters and male players playing as male characters. And if you wanted to, you could also do it the other way, like a romance between guys or women. You could come up with some plot twists, like, oh, that's the reason why he or she has been helping him or her all this time, because he had a crush or she had a crush on her or on him. So it's always a way to add interesting plot twists and to have fun with the situation. In my case, my players, they kind of like play those cliches and awkward situations that arise between couples that they feel too distant from each other. One of them feels like the other one isn't paying attention to the other one. And sometimes they have like these little shots back and forth, even in combat. Like maybe this character is saving the other character during a fight, and he or she is going to be like, and you're not only lazy in bed, you're also lazy here in the battlefield. What a shame, or how, yeah. So you can have those moments. Or in the live stream, I said the typical, you didn't call me, or you said you were going for cigarettes and you never came back. So you need to have fun with those situations. And when it comes to major plot points, what if one of the members of the party falls in love with a very important non-player character? Maybe now the party benefits from that union. You have this romantic interest as the patron because the love interest is within the party of adventurers. Now the patron is very much interested in having them survive throughout their adventures. There are some games like, especially in the Southern Planet style, typical classic sci-fi or science fantasy rather. There is this game from Precis Intermedia, a really good game, although there are some things that I don't like. I will mention them in a few moments. It's called Planets of Peril. In Planets of Peril, you have this romance subsystem of seduction and all of that. You have modifiers, depending on the age difference, the caste or the society, the difference based on the position in society. That's also going to influence the result of the seduction, of the romance. Pretty much anything that you can think of, gifts, your interactions with the member that you want to, the other non-player character that you want to romance, or maybe you want to handle it, like I said, within the party. There are going to be modifiers to your role. And so that's somewhat a nice way, I would say an effective way, of integrating that theme with the rules. You also have rules on the offspring. And of course, because you have different species, it's not going to be always possible to have offspring. That's part of what I don't like from that RPG. Some of the alien, or rather the modified human races, they don't seem too logical. You have like the balanced race, and in that case you have men that, yes, they are burly and tall, but the women, they are not exactly halfling, but for some reason they are very short. That's a bit weird. It wouldn't be compatible. There is no logic behind it. If I ever roleplay that one, I am going to change the way that the races are handled. Modified races rather, because they are the results of alien experimentation in that case. And you also have these other humans that kind of look like uber humans, almost like primary space marines. They are very tall, very strong, but for some reason the men are always bald. It makes no sense. Like I've said before in other videos, these things, these hairs, they are power cells. You obtain power from them. All of the greatest warriors in the history of mankind, Samson, Miyamoto Musashi, Alexander the Great, Kuhulin, they have this wild hair, untamed hair, giving you strength. If I remember correctly, Hercules, there has been some misinformation in order to manipulate mythology and history for different ends, but as I understand it, Hercules also had like long hair. The Spartans, search for Spartans long hair. So it doesn't make sense that such a very strong modified race would be bald. Like I said, but the subsystem for romance, seduction, the offspring, etc. You even have modifiers to see if it is possible to have a healthy child. Many of you know, despite of the politics involved, you know that as a woman grows older, the chances of having a healthy child start to reduce. I think it depends on many things. Because, like I've said in other videos, when it comes to the offspring between people in real life, it's all about the compatibility. If you have a man and a woman that are structurally similar, don't go for the pigmentation of the hair or the eyes or the skin. It's more like they need to look kind of like you. Then I think there's going to be a healthy child based on my own observations throughout life. If the couples are very different, especially like I said, a different stature or the bone structure, maybe someone has like thinner bones and the other one has these massive bones, then there are going to be complications in childbirth. And again, the Rh negative factor, only between 10 to 15% of the people in the world have that factor. If you take an Rh negative with an Rh positive, it's probably going to result in an abortion, or the child could be born with, there's a chance that the child could be born with chronic physical and mental problems. Chronic mental and physical problems. So it's all about that. That's also an important part of romance. If it's a romance between members of the same sex, same gender. It's more based on the complications or excitement between the interactions of those characters, but when it comes to a man and a woman, there is always that chance that there could be a child born that could be an important part of the adventure. In the Mutant Epoch role-playing game, you can actually have a romance between mutants, and the mutations will be passed down to the child. So if you are playing a long campaign that takes place many years, or perhaps within the same campaign, you have the same campaign and many years go by, and now the child is 15 or 16 years old, and you can go on adventures. That child could inherit a second head from the parent that had 3 heads, and the body spikes of the mother. That's possible. So it's all about having fun with those romantic situations and the repercussions of that, yes, of that relationship. So I am definitely up to, that is, I support using romance and sex in tabletop role-playing games. All of this should be handled beforehand in session 0. You don't want any awkward moments. Have fun with it. If there is a romance between the members of the party, make sure that all of those involved in the romance are okay with it. It's also very annoying, right? Maybe you have your player character and one of the other members of the group wants to force a relationship, and they make those roles to force the relationship, and the other player doesn't want that for his or her character. I think that you shouldn't be allowing that, because it's your character and the other character is trying to force your character into a particular avenue or path. It doesn't make sense. Especially when you want, for example, your character to be a lesbian, and you want to force that lesbian into a relationship with your straight character. It doesn't make sense. No sense whatsoever. Mostly because the player controlling the lesbian character doesn't want that for his or her character. So yes, can definitely consider adding romance and sex into your games. I would love to know your own experiences when it comes to romance and sex. Sometimes, just like a final point, sometimes that could actually save the party. You know, like a typical Flash Gordon situation, that Ming's daughter was in love with Flash Gordon, and because of that, he actually survived many ordeals because she was helping him. So what if there is this situation, you have enemies and one of the enemies falls in love with one of the members of the party, and now that enemy is secretly helping the party just because he or she is in love with one of the members of the party. That's another way of handling things, but still, I would love to know your own thoughts and ideas on this. Tell me about your experiences using love and romance and sex in tabletop RPGs. And of course, any other questions or comments that you have, please let me know in the comment section below. Once again, thank you for watching my videos, and thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support the channel. If anyone else wishes to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. And remember, it is better to roleplay and fail in character than not to roleplay and fail as a player. Once again, thank you, and see you later.